Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining today's webcast. We're excited to bring you a very timely topic, an introduction to wellness. I'm Sarah Hunt. I'm Education and Engagement Leader for the Corporate Health and Wellness Association. We are a nonprofit 501c3 dedicated to educating employer groups on the trends, innovations, and best practices in employee wellness. Today we have one of our most recent speakers at our 2014 Corporate Wellness Conference, Gloria Treaster, and the webcast is brought to you by the Corporate Health and Wellness Association. I'd like to begin today's presentation by introducing Gloria. Gloria Treaster, she's a healthcare visionary who has studied about health and wellness for over 30 years. In 2003, she founded Wellness Evolution and began creating unique models for delivering a patient-centered functional medicine approach to health, focusing on a person's unique biochemical individuality and getting to the root cause of a problem, rather than treating the symptoms. This novel approach was understood by few, most doctors included. Gloria has, throughout her career, has taught a popular Wellness 101 class and begins the empowerment process for helping professionals learn how to take control of their well-being. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Gloria Treaster.
All right. Hi, everybody. Hope you're having a good day. Thank you, Sarah. Can you see me? Can you hear me? Okay. All right. So Wellness 101, it's a great place to start. I'm Gloria Treaster, as Sarah mentioned, and I'm the founder and CEO of Wellness Evolution. I've been in the business of healthcare for 34 years. I owned a physical therapy company for 17 years and sold it to a publicly traded company in 1997. Throughout all that time that I was in healthcare, I had the opportunity to speak to physicians every day, to clients, to patients, and it really always bothered me and never made any sense why in healthcare we were waiting until we were broken and then going back and trying to fix it. So in the 90s, we started implementing wellness at my physical therapy company, and we were doing some really cool things like functional capacity evaluations and ergonomic design in the workplace. And then we started getting people ready for surgery before they even had it. So it was kind of exciting, different ground. And when I sold my business, I wound up working for the organization that bought me. They were a huge national company. So I got the opportunity to not only see how healthcare could be delivered at the entrepreneurial level, but also at the corporate level. And I found it very interesting, but I also found it a little distressing. And so I decided to do some research. I took 3 years off, checked out what was happening in wellness throughout the country, and started Wellness Evolution. Also at the conference, as Sarah mentioned, I did this lecture, and I was also accompanied by Tracy Kuzer, the Vice President of Global Wellness and Productivity from Parker Hannafin, and also Keith Race, their Director of Global Benefits. Tracy did a great lecture in conjunction with mine, and I'm going to show you some of her slides at the end of this presentation. We've been working with Parker for, let's see, since 2007, and I'll show you how they developed their program and some of the things that they're doing. At Wellness Evolution, our core competencies are that we do disease management, prevention, and reversal. And one thing that makes us unique is that we have a naturopathic approach. In case you're not familiar, a naturopathic doctor is a doctor who goes to medical school, and instead of spending the last 2 years figuring out how to diagnose problems and address them through pharmaceutical interventions, they learn how to treat things with nutrition and supplementation. And so that's pretty interesting, and I'll tell you more about that later. We do have online branded natural supplement stores with our corporate clients. We do specialty lab testing, weight loss programs, body work, and all the different things I'm going to be sharing with you today. So my goal for this talk today is, oh, that's not working. That's interesting. Hold on just one second. I'm having a little bit of a technical problem here. The slides have things that slide in, and this one doesn't have it. So are you trying to fix that for me, Dan? The PowerPoint transitions are not in there. But really, I can go on. My goal really is to empower you to be a more informed healthcare consumer. I want you to ask the question, why? When you go in, it's interesting, over the years when I've had a situation where I've asked a client, you know, why are you on that medication? And their answer to me generally is, I don't know, my doctor told me to take it, I have no clue. So that's kind of disturbing to me, and I feel like we've been trained to be victims in a healthcare system that doesn't work, and I want to empower you to be a more informed healthcare consumer. So here's my question for you to start off today. If you're not sick, are you well? If we were all in the same room together, I know I'd be seeing people saying, yes, no, maybe. But my answer to that question is not necessarily. Healthcare is cumulative, and I'm going to tell you he's got a lot of stress. He came into the physical therapy office and, you know, said that his back had gone out. And I said, well, how did that happen? And essentially his answer was, well, my pencil rolled off my desk, I bent over to pick it up, and right when I picked it up, my back went out. But is that really what happened? I would contend that it is not. I mean, healthcare doesn't just happen over time. Your back doesn't just go out, and you don't just have a heart attack. What happened to Don is what happens to so many people. Maybe he didn't exercise and have good core strength. Maybe he was using poor posture. There's so many reasons that a person's back could go out, but it doesn't happen in an instant. It happens over time, and so it is with all of the other problems that we experience in health. So let's talk about wellness. Like I said, it's cumulative. So here's a continuum from poor health to good health. At any point in time on any given day, you're either going in one direction or the other. If you ate a good breakfast this morning, chances are all of a sudden it's tipping more towards good health. If you skip breakfast, you didn't exercise, maybe you're leaning more the other way. And if you can think about your life that way and think about the decisions that you make, you're either going towards illness where maybe you have reduced function, you might be on multiple medications, you have low energy, you have a non-active lifestyle, and generally speaking, you have a pretty poor quality of life. Or you're going towards the other end of the continuum where you're developing wellness, where you have optimal health and function, and that you have good energy, and that you're not on medication. You might be taking a supplement or two, but other than that, you really don't need to take anything. And the other thing that you have is fine-tuned biochemistry, and that's something we're going to get heavily into. The people that I worry about are the fake well. These are people who are in this comfort zone where they're like, I don't have to do anything, I don't exercise, I don't eat right, but that's okay because I feel pretty good. Those are the people that are on that continuum, and they're swinging the other direction. So here's a chart that shows us what we've been told are the leading causes of death in the United States, and this is representative of what we've been led to believe. Of course, heart disease and cancer are right up there at the top, and respiratory diseases, stroke, diabetes, influenza. There's all kinds of things that we've been told are the leading causes of death in the United States. But are those really the causes? Or is it more the lifestyle behaviors that lead up to the diseases that cause the death? For instance, your dietary risks. Are you eating poorly? Are you smoking? Do you have a high body mass index? High blood pressure? Is your glucose level too high? Is your physical inactivity, are you physically inactive? Do you have low physical inactivity? Are you drinking? Do you have high cholesterol? These are the things that you need to be aware of that actually cause the diseases that cause the death. It's not necessarily the disease itself, but we have to start thinking about where did the cause come from. So, and to further exacerbate this, 79% of U.S. adults don't get the recommended amount of daily exercise. 75% of us don't eat enough fruits and vegetables. And even if we did, I'm going to tell you a little bit more later about why that might not be enough. 40% of U.S. adults are sleep deprived at any given time. 66% of us are stressed on a daily basis. 36% of us are obese. And I think about another 30% are overweight. The cost of obesity is staggering, and it leads to those diseases that eventually lead to premature death. And 45% of U.S. adults suffer from at least one chronic disease. And the other aspect when you take a holistic approach to wellness is that 54% of us report having less face-to-face time with friends, and 32% of social media users say they feel lonelier. So we think we're very connected, but in fact we are feeling lonelier, and that affects our health as well. And another thing that I hear time and time again is people are saying things like, you know, people are living longer today. Why should I really care about those issues? And certainly we have to look at this as a quantity of life versus a quality of life issue. People, yes, people are living longer, but how are they spending those extra years of life? Are they out there kicking it? Are they traveling and rolling around on the floor, playing with their grandchildren? Are they having a good time in life? Or are they laying in a bed in a nursing home, having somebody change their diaper? This is not something that I want for myself, and I'm assuming you don't either, yet many of us really are convinced that we can abuse ourselves as much as we want, and then someone will prescribe a pill or they'll do a surgery, and that's going to make it all better. So here's the problem in our current medical strategy thinking. We wait for disease or health risks, and then we treat them. So in quality terms, this translates into wait for the defects and then fix the defects. Can you imagine if in corporate America we had that same strategy when it came to quality? Think about it. Parker, for instance, has an aerospace division. If they waited for a plane to fall out of the sky and then said, oh, wait a minute, what happened? Maybe we need to fix that part, we'd be in big trouble. But that's what we're doing with our own health. We need to fix the systems that lead to the defects and integrate the whole person. So just to reiterate, healthcare is reactive and wellness is proactive. So what is wellness? What does it mean? The term wellness to me suggests an all-encompassing, holistic approach to health. It's more than a physical fitness program. It's more than eating right. It's more than taking a pill or a vitamin. To illustrate, let's talk about this scenario. Let's say you can't sleep. So you walk into your doctor's office, you've got an appointment, you say, Doc, I can't sleep. What does the doctor do? Generally speaking, because of the time constraints, the doctor will reach in his pocket, pull out a prescription pad, and write you a prescription for a sleeping pill. But yet they don't have the time. They're good people, but they just don't have the time in today's healthcare scenario to sit there and find out what's the root cause of this problem and exactly what's happening. Is it that you can't fall asleep or you can't stay asleep? Is it because you're stressed? Is it because you're drinking coffee right before you go to bed? Or is it because your cortisol levels are rising throughout the day, and when it's time to shut your eyes and sleep, you've built up too much cortisol? There's all kinds of reasons that a person can't sleep, and we should be considering all of these, all of the dimensions of wellness when approaching an individual with a health concern. So let's pretend now for a moment, I'm going to get out my little pointer here, that this tree here represents all of healthcare. And we're going to imagine that this trunk of the tree is your primary care medicine. That's where you go when you have your physicals every year. That's where you might go if you develop a cough and maybe it turns into bronchitis. And that's all fine and good, and we're really grateful that in this country we've got a great primary care system and we can get help that way. The branches of the tree are representative of the different specialties. So here's the branches. I don't know if you can see me. And let's say you've got a cardiovascular problem. So you're going to go to a cardiologist. And let's say you've got a bone problem. You're going to go to the orthopedic surgeon. And if you have a neurological problem, you're going to go to a neurosurgeon or a neurologist. And I would caution you that while there's great practitioners up there in those branches, that you really want to try to stay out of there as much as possible, because once you get up there, you're really being viewed as a heart or a bone or a brain, and not as a whole human being that has many different facets to them. And so where we like to play is down here in the roots. We believe that to stay well, you want to get to the root cause, find out what's causing it, and then treat it from the root, rather than taking pharmaceuticals that maybe are patching a problem or addressing symptoms alone. So going back to our tree, we're just talking here. Up here we have our specialists, and the cost there is high. The accessibility is somewhat poor. It takes a long time to get in to see a good practitioner. The intervention is treating symptoms, and you're usually very highly acute at that stage. If you're here in the trunk, once again, the cost can be high. The accessibility is moderate. I know I've been waiting to get in to see a new doctor for 15 months. My appointment, it might be longer, my appointment's in March. I made it back in September. And also, any issues that I would bring up at that visit are essentially going to be treated with a pharmaceutical approach. So we're going to be treating the symptoms once again. When you're down here in the roots, the cost is moderate. The accessibility today is pretty good. We're going to get to the root cause, and we're going to try to catch things before they become acute. We're going to get you at the pre-acute stage, or we're going to try to reverse any process that's going on. So what can you do to live your best life? I'll have an ounce of prevention. So we have changing views, and what we practice at Wellness Evolution is what I like to call medicine for the 21st century. You may call it anti-aging medicine, preventive medicine, naturopathic medicine, whatever it is that you call it, that's what's coming in to our society now, and people are starting to look for this approach. Before, we were treating things with science, but we were also using pharmaceutical approaches. Now we're trying to use the science and the natural approach, and we'll go into that a bit. And rather than reacting to acute the symptoms, we're going to do early detection and prevention. And also, we've come to accept the fact that age-related diseases are going to happen, and we just have to live with it. Now the new philosophy is that we can reverse those age-related diseases. You know, it used to be that you were like, you know, you're 20, you're 30, you're 40, you feel pretty good. Oops, I just hit 50, so now I'm supposed to accept like a steady decline in my health. And the bottom line is that just doesn't have to be that way. There are methods now for helping you stay healthy and vibrant and lively until the end of your life. So if we go back to our tree and we look at our true wellness approach, let's start by looking at what are our beliefs. My number one belief is that you are biochemically unique. There's absolutely no one on the planet like you. Even if you have an identical twin, based on environmental differences, you are not biochemically the same. And so it goes with taking prescriptions or taking supplements or doing things that worked for your neighbor, worked for your grandmother, but it may not work for you because you are biochemically unique. And if you learn only one thing today and one thing only, I want you to remember that. And so because of your biochemical uniqueness, it's important to know what makes up your uniqueness. And the cool thing is that you can discover that now through this new medicine for the 21st century, which also incorporates for us some very cool specialty lab tests. And I'm going to get into those a little bit for you. Our second belief is that your genes are modifiable. We believe that fully 75 to 80% of your genetic makeup is modifiable because of your lifestyle behaviors. Some people believe that, well, my aunt had diabetes, my uncle has diabetes, my cousin has diabetes, so naturally I'm going to get it. I'm a sitting duck. There's nothing I can do about it. But in reality, our genes are profoundly influenced by the lifestyle choices we make. There's a whole new segment of science forming around this philosophy called epigenetics. And you can look that up. It's very interesting, but you actually have a lot more control over your health than you may think. So what tools can we use when we're using a true wellness approach? These are different tests that I'm going to cover. And the question here is, why guess when you can know? If you can get your individual strategies down and you're able to look at what are my unique biomarkers and take that to form a strategy that takes you going forward so you know exactly what you need to do for yourself, you can really improve your chances of staying well. This is one size fits one medicine. Many of you, if you're in the corporate world, have done biometrics. Biometrics are great. It's a good start for wellness. But it only goes one question deep. It's just looking at certain markers that really can only tell you long-term what might happen to you over time. But it doesn't really tell you today, am I going to have a heart attack next week or this year? And it also doesn't give you a plan of action. Many people take those to their physicians. They look at the cholesterol numbers or the glucose numbers, and they either put you on a medication or they don't. What we like to do is what we call bioaction. We identify the hidden risk, and I'm going to show you what that is, and get to the root cause of your symptoms, and then have that result in a plan to prevent your disease. So what we're doing is we're taking science, which is the testing, nature, which is our approach, and nurture, which is the educational part, which is what's important. And I'm so grateful that you're here today to learn about these things. So let's start with nutrition. Evidence confirms that nutrient deficiencies suppress your immune function and therefore can contribute to chronic diseases. And this includes our big ones: cardiovascular disease, diabetes, arthritis, Alzheimer's, and many, many more. So what you need to know is that it's hard really today to get all the nutrition you want from your diet. Some people are successful at doing it, and the best way to do that would be to try to eat only organic foods, try to eat local, and maybe have a good portion of your diet be raw. And I'm sure you've heard a lot about this. Because what is happening in reality is, in the United States, the typical standard American diet, SAD, which is a good acronym, contains highly processed packaged foods that have minimal nutritional value. Sometimes they have anti-nutritional value. And even if you're eating all the recommended amounts of fruits and vegetables, what we're eating today are lacking a lot of the essential minerals and nutritional vitamins that you need for your health. And some of the reasons for that are things like soil depletion. You know, we've moved away from that family farming situation, and now we're doing industrial farming, which may not allow for the soil to rest in between crops. And so the soil doesn't have a chance to build up the nutrition, to build up the minerals that you're counting on and the amino acids that you're counting on to go into your food. And so when you eat it, it goes into your body. Another problem is extensive storage time. You know, this time of year, there's not a lot of fruits and vegetables being grown in the Cleveland area where I live. So a lot of the food that we eat is coming from South America, maybe California. And in order for that food to taste good and look right when it gets here, they're having to pick the food before it's ripe, send it on a long boat ride, truck ride to get to Cleveland. And then when it gets here, there's a process of gassing the fruits and vegetables to artificially induce the ripening process. When you don't allow the plants to mature and have that fruit and vegetable mature on the vine, you're not going to get all the nutrition that you need. Another huge problem that we're facing here in the United States, and a lot of countries reject our food for this reason, are GMOs. A lot of people aren't familiar with that term, so let me explain. That stands for genetically modified organisms. GMOs are everywhere. I understand, and I could be a little off, but about 90% of the corn grown in this country are genetically modified. So what's happening is, and it sounds like a good intention at the beginning, we've genetically messed with the DNA of plants by making them resistant to pesticides, for instance. So we can spray the crop and kill the bugs, and the plant won't die. And at first glance, that sounds like a good idea, but what it actually is that they're somehow incorporating into the plant something that allows it to withstand the pesticides. So you're getting more pesticides. It's in the plant, and the GMOs are designed to grow faster and look prettier. So they look better, but the nutritional value isn't there, and you are getting a lot of the poisons that are associated with genetically modified foods. Also, another problem with nutrition is that certain pharmaceutical medications deplete nutrition from your body. And if you look at this little square here, this is the medication use today in the United States. These numbers are staggering. Many of us are on medications, and we don't entirely understand the ramifications of that. Side effects are huge with many drugs, whereas one person will experience a side effect, another person may get a different one or none at all, and that speaks to the biochemical individuality that we're talking about here. So when they pull a drug off the market because it's killing some people, other people may be sad because that's the only thing that really worked for them. So what happens with medications is that they can cause improper absorption of vitamins and minerals, and they can accelerate the elimination of nutrients from the body. So that can cause bothersome symptoms like fatigue or upset stomach to things very serious like heart, muscle, or nerve damage. So I'll give you an example. If you or someone you know is currently taking a statin drug, you may have heard from that person, or you may be experiencing it yourself, that they experience extreme fatigue. It's difficult for them to even walk up a set of stairs. Well, the reason for that is that the statin drugs tend to deplete coenzyme Q10 from the body. You've probably heard of CoQ10. And what it does is it works with your muscles to create ATP for energy. Well, what's your heart? Your heart is a muscle. And so here you're taking a drug that theoretically is supposed to do good for your heart, and yet you're taking away from it a nutrient that it needs to function properly and optimally. So something to think about. Okay, so I think we missed a couple slides there. There we go. And so you can actually today do a blood test that can measure the nutritional content at the cellular level. It can tell you what vitamins, minerals, amino acids, antioxidants, and fatty acids your body is looking for. So wouldn't you rather do a test like that and get results that show you, these are each individual, right here I've just selected a slice of it, but these are B-complex vitamins, and you can see that this person is not deficient in any of them, although right here they're borderline. If it was a deficiency, it would be red and it would be below the line. And you can be very strategic about your supplementation rather than dealing with this. How many of you have stood in front of a long aisle of millions of bottles of supplements, maybe hundreds, but looking at it going, what should I take? I don't really know. I heard something about CoQ10. Should I take a fish oil? Do I need vitamin D? This can be very strategic for you, and it is very helpful. So when you know what your deficiencies are, you can make a choice. You can say, you know what? I am going to change my diet, and I'm going to get all the nutrition I need. Or you're going to discover that maybe you need a little help from a nutritional supplement. And we would suggest that you see someone who knows about supplementation, can help you be very strategic in your approach. Someone like a naturopathic doctor, an anti-aging medicine doctor, integrative medicine. These people are now being trained in that medicine for the 21st century where they can help you with smart supplementation. And another thing I want to caution you about is that it's very important to take high-quality pharmaceutical-grade supplements because that industry is not regulated, and chances are you won't know the whole story about what's in the supplement you're taking if you're buying it off the shelf. An example would be if you say, Gloria, I'm taking a multivitamin, I take Centrum, or I take one a day. What you'll find is that those are designed for long shelf life. There's something in it called polyethylene glycol, which is the main ingredient in antifreeze, and your body doesn't know what to do with that. We don't need antifreeze. So also you might see it in a tablet form, and that might have a nice shiny cover on it, and that is vinyl. So these are things that keep it from breaking down and actually making it bioavailable for your cells to functionally take it in and utilize it to run your body, much like the gas you put in your car. Okay, we skipped a slide again. Something's not right with this. Okay, so inflammation. Inflammation is hugely important, and I encourage you to learn more about it because inflammation is at the root cause of every disease, everything. So when you're testing, it's very important to know about different types of inflammation. If you look down here, you'll see that there's CRP. That's C-reactive protein. That's one measure of inflammation in the body, and a lot of doctors are now starting to use that kind of information, along with something called homocysteine. The problem with measuring that is that it really takes into account all of the inflammation going on in your body. So if you injure yourself the day before your blood test, those numbers might be high, but they're not really going to tell you, am I going to have a heart attack or a stroke? They're good information, but what's even better that's just come out, and this is very interesting information, we work with Cleveland Heart Labs on this, is something called myeloperoxidase, which shows vascular inflammation outside the artery wall that's going to identify the risk for the plaque in your arteries, if you have any, to rupture and cause a heart attack. And then there's this, which shows the vascular inflammation inside the artery walls that may identify active disease and risk for a heart attack and stroke. So these are two things that you should be aware of. What is my level of inflammation in my body? And you know what? You can see it sometimes. If you see inflammation in your face, or you see that your hands are swollen or your legs are swollen, you're swollen on the inside too, and it might help you to do something that's anti-inflammatory and natural. There's things like bromelain that come from pineapple and boswellia, which comes from a tree. It's also known as frankincense. So there's different strategies that you can do and use to help with that. Moving right along, and I'm sorry, there's a lot of information I want to give you, so we got to move a little quickly through these, but I could talk a whole day or more on any of these topics, and happy to do so anytime. Just call me. So the next thing we're going to talk about is brain chemistry. It's very important to know what's going on with your brain. And there are things called neurotransmitters that direct traffic from your organs to your brain, and that really impact your health in quite a profound way. So as you're looking at this, you may not recognize many of these names, and maybe you do. For instance, dopamine. You should be familiar with dopamine because that's the one that makes you feel happy. You've heard of a runner's high? That's because runners, when they're exercising and when you exercise, you create higher levels of dopamine in your body. Another that you might be familiar with is serotonin. Serotonin is what helps you relax and go to sleep at night. These are all, as you can see, very important things. What you can do is do a test to find out what are my levels of all of those brain chemicals, and do they affect my ability to feel good. Take a look at this chart of symptoms here. All of these issues come from your neurotransmitters. It's very easy to do a test like this. There's a little kit. It comes in a box. It gets drop shipped to your house. You pee in a cup. You spit in a tube. You put it in the box, send it off to the lab, and they come back with a beautiful report that tells you what's out of balance in your life. If you have any of these issues, you can find out how to balance your chemistry so that you can get rid of them without medication. The way that they approach these problems is with supplements that contain amino acids and vitamins, and that generally allows your body to, after time, kickstart and make some of its own chemicals so that over time you don't need to be on these forever. Most of the drugs, like antidepressants, you're usually a customer for life. So balance is what we've been talking about, and that's really what your body's looking for in all aspects. And there's even a word for this. It's called homeostasis. So at any given time, your body wants to be balanced. One of the biggest issues for balance is hormone levels. We used to think that you aged because your hormone levels drop because you age, but actually you age when your hormone levels decline, and you don't have to have low hormone levels. There's ways that you can address it. Once again, you can either test this through saliva or urine or a blood test, depending on what your doctor prefers. And for the ladies out there, take a look at this list. Do you see yourself here? Are you experiencing any of these types of symptoms? Are you gaining weight for no reason? Are you depressed? Are you getting headaches? These are things that might indicate that you have a female basic hormone imbalance. Now take a look at these two lists, and this is for everybody. Thyroid hormone imbalance. Thyroid's a hormone. If you feel fatigued or you start having heart palpitations or your hair's thinning out and you can't figure out why, or you can't sleep or your libido is affected, you might have a thyroid hormone imbalance. This is something you can check and address very simply. Adrenal hormone imbalance. This is your stress hormone. If you're stressed out all the time and your adrenals get shot, these are some of the things that might happen to you. And let's not leave the guys out. Women go through menopause. Men, you go through andropause. And these are some of the symptoms of that. And don't some of these things look very familiar, like decreased urine flow and erectile dysfunction? How many drug commercials do we need to see for drugs to address those problems, when really you might find that all you need to do is supplement with some testosterone or something that's going to help your body create its own. So when you get a lab test back for your hormones, you want to be in range. This person's in range, not out of range. But the thing I would caution you about is if you decide to go to a doctor and have your hormones checked, make sure that there's someone that really understands hormones from a more recent perspective. Because what they might say is, you know, you're 60, so you're in range for a 60-year-old. I don't want to be in range for a 60-year-old personally. I want to be in range for a 30 or 35-year-old, which is when I felt my best in my life. And you can feel that way with the right strategies in place. Food allergies and sensitivities, we're missing some language here, are also things that are not detected easily. A lot of times people have food allergies, they have sensitivities, and even toxicity from it that are causing serious health problems. Certain foods that you're eating could make you sick and you might not even know it. There's three basic types of reactions to food. There's celiac, which is a response to gluten in the diet. I'm sure you've heard a lot about it. And gluten is something that was never in our foods before. We don't need it. And I'm sure you're hearing a lot about people who are trying a gluten-free diet, and it's because it's making them sick. Another type is the IgE, which is an immediate response to a food. You eat the food, like a peanut. Some people have peanut allergies. You eat it, it triggers a severe response in minutes, and the next thing you know, you're in the hospital. And you could die from it. That's an immediate food allergy. But there's also the IgG and IgA, which are the non-immediate food intolerance and food sensitivity problems. And the reaction to that may not show up for hours or days. Hard to imagine, but you could eat something today and not even feel a reaction to it for 3 weeks. And so it's hard to pinpoint it. And so what happens to a lot of people is they go in with digestive problems, they get tested for all kinds of crazy things, but not food allergies, only to find out later that they've spent all of this time working on figuring out what's going on, and they really come up empty-handed. Sometimes they're even told that it's all in their head. So I'll give you an example, and once again, we're missing part of the slide here, so I'm hoping they can bring it back for me. But is getting treated, getting better. We had a client come in. He's in his early 50s. His name was Steve, and his son brought him in the office after he was on 7 pharmaceutical medications. He felt terrible. He couldn't figure out what was wrong with him. Nobody had an answer for him, and he felt awful. And it all started 7 years earlier. Actually, I think it's 3 years earlier. I don't have my notes there. But when he got reflux, and he went to the doctor, and the doctor prescribed Nexium, the purple pill. And he started taking the Nexium, and 2 weeks later, he started to develop sinus problems. And so the doctor prescribed a medication for his sinuses, not realizing that sinus congestion is a pretty common side effect of Nexium. And now he was off and running. He was on 2 medications, and he started feeling lousy. They put him on a 3rd, a 4th, a 5th, a 6th. And before you knew it, this poor guy was on 7 pharmaceutical medications, and he felt terrible. What we did was we sat down with him and kind of did a backwards history. When did you go on this medication, and why? When did you go on this and why? What was causing you to go on that? And what we were able to do was go back to when he first got on the Nexium and said, what did you do differently? Can you remember anything that happened differently before you went on that drug? And what he said was, well, I read an article about how healthy blueberries are, so I started eating blueberries. So we tested him. Guess what? This guy was allergic to blueberries. That was the only thing he was allergic to. And over time, we were able to work with him and his doctors and get him off of all of those medications. And all he had to do was make one dietary change. Certainly something to think about. Detoxification is another concern for all of us. And the question is not, are you toxic? It's how toxic are you? There are toxins all over the place. It's in the air we breathe. It's in the carpet that we're sitting in a room with. It's in the paint on the walls. It's in our food. And we really need to consider that toxins can cause all kinds of problems and wreak havoc with our health. There's lots of ways that we get toxins in our body. There's different labs to test for toxicity. And there's also a myriad of things that you can do to detoxify. One way that we get toxins is as simple as putting on deodorant in the morning. It's got aluminum in it. Aluminum goes into your pores and your armpit. It prevents you from sweating, which is one of the natural ways that your body detoxes, and at the same time you're putting aluminum in your system. It's not a good strategy, and there's so many other things like that that we do on a daily basis. Okay, so to drive that point even further home, we've got a client here named Diane. She's a wife, she's a mother, she's 58 years old, and she's the spouse of one of our Parker clients. She realized that she had joint pain, skin rashes, mood swings. She was always tired. She couldn't lose weight. She had headaches. She was hypersensitive to smells. And she knew that she wanted a natural approach, and that came from her education of being a spouse with Parker. She came in. She had already done some research. She said, I think I have Candida. We tested her for that and realized, yes, she was right, and she did a Candida cleanse. In 1 month, these are her own words from a testimonial she wrote, it was like night and day. It was that simple. All of those symptoms could have led her to a pharmaceutical approach that would have led her down a path to who knows where. But instead, she found out she had Candida. She did a cleanse. That's an overgrowth of yeast, by the way, in the body. Once again, you want balance. She had too much, and we were able to get rid of it. Another strategy is knowing your blood type. Some people feel great. We had a client, a corporate client, who was doing everything right, eating right, exercising, and yet he didn't feel right. So we decided to take a look at his blood type, and it's very easy to find it out. You can get a little test kit like this online and just prick your finger and figure it out. But your blood type comes from your ancestors, what they eat. And some people were meant to be vegetarian, and some people were not. Sometimes you have to honor your own blood type, your own biochemical individuality, and change your diet up a little bit. Some people were just simply made to eat meat and potatoes, and that's all there is to it. So now what about therapies? We want to create programs in which people can get better. One of the things that we do is programs that have testing at the beginning, then medical consultations and advice and strategies. some coaching and education in between, and then we retest. This could be one strategy that you could try to get better. There's different ways of approaching it. You could do a mind and mood program, healthy heart. You could even say, look, I feel pretty good. I just want to stay well, and just go and get education on what that means for you. Conventional medicine, as we said earlier, has a drug, surgery, physical therapy. Those are the things they have to offer you, clinical psychotherapy. And we're missing the other half of that slide I just did. But a natural approach has so much more to offer you. So nutritional supplements are important. You've probably heard of people taking fish oils, vitamin D. For women, you'll probably want to get a little extra calcium as you get older. And identifying what nutrients you need is very important, taking you forward in your life to stay well. I want to tell you a story about a guy named Denny. He did one of our programs, and he learned he had high cholesterol in his testing, his biometric screening. So he took a heart health class with us, and he learned how to manage his own cholesterol levels, and he did really well. And then, as most of us do, over time, he slacked off, and when he went to his yearly visit with his doctor, it showed up that his numbers were high, his cholesterol numbers. And so the doctor took out his prescription pad and started to write him a script for Lipitor, and he said, wait a minute, doc, I don't want that. I know exactly what to do. And he left the office that day, and he went back to what he had learned previously about managing his own health. And he was so proud of himself because 3 months later, when he went back to the doctor, all of his numbers were within normal range. He was so excited, in fact, that he called us to tell us. Other things that you can try for your wellness are different modalities. Acupuncture has been around for thousands of years. Body work, energy medicine. These are not just feel-good things. These are therapeutic. They have great value, and they really help do things like increase muscle tone, encourage your metabolism, enhance your mood, reduce your stress. All of them are effective. Try thinking about trying those before you jump to a drug. And stress. We really need to address stress in our lives, people. It is real. Here are some of the things that happen to us as a result of stress. And it's not just being stressed out one day. It's a buildup over time that eventually will do you in. So just to illustrate that a little better, this is actually showing you the parts of the body that can physically have an effect from stress. So think about stress reduction methods, learn meditation, or try yoga or proper breathing. These are things that we can help. So the takeaway points that I want to tell you about today are consider wellness as an investment rather than a cost. If you have to buy a fish oil because it's going to help your heart and your brain, that's a good investment, and get a good quality one. Be proactive. Prevent your illness. Promote natural healing. One size fits one. Remember that. You are unique. Disease states are cumulative. We want to always look for the root cause. What's causing this? Is it a nutrient deficiency? Are my hormones out of balance? Is my brain chemistry messed up? And always look to apply the least invasive therapy first. And education. Education is key. And I think you realize that because you're listening to this talk today. And there's so many more topics that we could teach you. These are not things we learned in school. And remember that wellness is easy. Don't make it harder than it has to be. It's very simple. We've come to a point in time in history where we can help you get to the root cause quickly. So make that a priority in your life. So my goals aren't here, but my goal was to empower you today to be the CEO of your own health and wellness and to make you a more educated consumer of healthcare. And I really, really hope that I've achieved that and that you've taken away one morsel of information today that might help you going forward or someone you know. So just real briefly, I just wanted to go back and tell you about the Parker story. Their health and wellness program started because their CEO, Don Washkowitz, is committed to it and had a personal experience where a member of his family was very, very ill, and he reached out all over the place and couldn't get help until he used that holistic approach and a natural approach. And so this is Parker's WIN strategy. This is how they operate their whole business, this one single sheet of paper. And in October of 2013, they added health and wellness as being a top strategy for them to win. They started their Path to Wellness program. so that they have more empowered employees. You'll be able to look at this more later on. They are global, so they have to look at different factors that are driving medical trends across the globe. And think about it, in the United States, we don't have this problem, but in some countries, just getting clean drinking water is an issue. They knew that the projected healthcare costs are projected to go up 8 to 10%, and they wanted to stop that also. And so these are some of the other trends in different parts of the world. And so they started to see their employee cost per month decrease against the national average after they implemented their program. And this is kind of how they got going. They started in 2003. That's right when I started Wellness Evolution. In 2007 is when we first started working with them. And you can see that it was working because they started expanding their supplement coverage. They actually pay for 80% of any nutritional supplements that their employees want, and the employees pay 20%. And that goes for the healthcare services, too, that I described. They've recently started wellness boot camps and model sites, and they've done some biometric screenings as well. So there's some information here that you can look at later about model sites and what they consider a model site to be. And it shows you where they are around the world. They have 34 of them now. We're actually working with 3 of them with a cardiovascular, metabolic, and also a mind, mood, memory, stress, and sleep program. They've had many success stories as a result. And this is the slide I really want to show you that shows a huge impact very clearly. This is one plant. The national average cost per employee for pharmaceutical drugs is $1,581. Parker's cost, and this is including the money they spend on supplements, is down to $488 a year. They have significantly reduced what their healthcare expenses are now and are going to be in the future because they're also preventing these diseases from progressing. So I thank you for being here. I appreciate your attention and you're taking the time out of your busy day to listen. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. I'm sorry if I went fast. Please call me. I'm happy to discuss anything with you at greater length. Here's my phone number, and feel free to email me anytime. In case you can't tell, wellness is a passion of mine. I love teaching it. I love doing it, and I love feeling good, and I hope the same for all of you. Thank you so much. Sarah?
So if you could simply begin typing your questions in the Q&A box in the bottom of your window, and Gloria will start answering some of your questions. Let's see. Gloria, we have a question from William. He asks, if wellness is so easy, why don't more people engage in their wellness?
That's a good question. I think it boils down to education. I think people don't realize it. Also, they don't believe that they can change their genetics, and they don't really know how to go forward with an approach like that. We're just now seeing more and more practitioners come into the field of integrative medicine, preventive medicine, anti-aging medicine, and if you can seek those folks out, they can help you make it easier for yourself. And just attending lectures like this, there's such a good amount of information out there. Learn what you can, kind of like Diane did with figuring out that she might have candida, and then coming into a doctor like that and having them help you get to the root cause of the problem like we talked about and give you a strategy for getting over that and staying well going into the future.
Excellent. We have another question. Ira says, you listed off many tests. Where should a company start? And then should it be instead of biometric screening, or do you have a recommended algorithm for which tests may be appropriate for whom?
That's a great question, and really right now The biometric screening is the industry standard. It does give you a little bit of information that's helpful. If you're already doing that, perhaps what you can do to get started is to look at who's your higher risk pool. How many people are headed down the road for diabetes? And maybe you start the diabetes program and you start measuring some of the more high-tech ways of measuring sugar in the body and start a program that way. Or if you're at cardiovascular risk, bring in that inflammation testing and start with a small group of your highest risk people that are going to cost you the most money going forward and who are also going to suffer the most. Because, of course, we're interested in the financial end, but we're also very interested in the human end of this and the lost productivity, not only at work, but at home and with your families. So kind of looking at where is the bulk, maybe taking a look at what's your demographic, what's your age demographic, and figuring out from there what's going to be your most important thing. I know at Parker, for instance, their people stay there for 20, 30, 40 years, and so they're dealing with an older population. Maybe those people would benefit from doing a healthy hormone or a healthy over 40 program. So I think it has to do with your population, and then also, unfortunately, it has to do with budget to some extent. But we can be very strategic about that and kind of take a look at what are your numbers and see what makes sense for you. I hope that helped.
I think we can do one more question, then we'll wrap it up. And just so everyone knows, we have recorded the webcast, so we will send everybody a copy of the replay and the PowerPoint within 48 to 72 hours from today. And then in addition, if you have any additional questions, feel free to email Gloria directly or email the association at info@wellnessassociation.com. And we've got one question from Michael, Gloria. What is the name of the cutting-edge technology that you are currently using in your practice that measures micronutrient levels, hormone levels, and food allergies?
Okay, there's several companies that do that. Now, with the micronutrient panel, there's a company out of Texas that we use called SpectraCell Laboratories, and I'm not sure, but I think they may be one of the only, if not the only. For food allergy testing, right now we use a little take-home kit by a company called US Biotech, but we also, if we really need to go deeper, there's other companies that do blood draws. This one is simply you prick your finger, put a few drops of blood on a card, let it dry, and send it in. Some of the other ones go a little bit deeper, but they're more expensive. That one's a nice little screening tool that's in a very nice price point. Hormones, there are several different ways of doing it. Some doctors will simply send a person to a lab to get a blood draw. Other times we do the take-home test kits where you spit in a tube or pee in a cup. And for the neurotransmitters and for some of the other issues, we use a company called Neuroscience, and they do a great job for us. So I'd be happy to share those with you. Michael, if you want to email me directly or give me a call, we can go a little deeper into that if you like.
Thank you, Gloria. And again, Gloria's email is gloria@wellnessevolution.com. We will be sending you a copy of today's presentation and the recording. Before we end today's webcast, I do want to share with you a couple of updates in regards to our upcoming event. It's going to be held September 27th through the 30th in Orlando, Florida. It's a great opportunity to sit in on educational sessions with experts like Gloria, as well as to learn from leading employers some of the trends, innovations, and corporate wellness, as well as we last year launched a whole entire track dedicated to corporate fitness and corporate nutrition. For employers, it's an opportunity to earn credits towards your SPHR. Here's just some of the employers that we've had speak in the past. Last year we had LinkedIn, Google, Chipotle, Intel, Hallmark all speak as part of our fitness and nutrition. Again, we launched a dedicated track to fitness, corporate fitness and corporate nutrition, and that's all part of the Employer Healthcare and Benefits Congress, the overarching umbrella. Oh, and here are some of our speakers. And just some highlights for this year's event. We'll be holding our 4th annual Healthy Foods in the Workplace Forum. Last year we had record setting numbers with dozens of leading employers all coming together and sharing some of their insights on how they're incorporating healthy food within the workplace, whether it's vending options and cafeteria foods, things like that. We're also got an exciting opportunity for all of our attendees this year. We'll be doing a conference-wide attendee fitness wearable challenge where we'll be giving out different wearable devices, and you'll be able to compete against other conference delegates. And we've got awards that'll be given out. And then, again, this year we'll be doing our wearable device competition. We're actually in the midst of our first wearable device competition where we've got we've got about 30 different employers all demoing out different devices, and we're going to be coming out with a comprehensive white paper on employers implementing wearable devices into the corporate space. What are some of the challenges? What are some of the solutions and best practices as we see this growing trend within the corporate wellness space. We'll also be holding our 2nd annual on-site clinics. And again, you can get certified. We've got 3 designations as it relates to wellness. We've got our Certified Corporate Fitness Professional, which we recently launched, and this presentation actually counts towards the core of that. We've also got the Certified Corporate Nutrition Professional, again, of which this presentation that Gloria covered also counts towards. And then today, we'd like to offer all of you as a thank you for participating in our webcast. We've got an exclusive offer to participate in either the Certified Corporate Fitness or the Certified Corporate Nutrition Professional at a discounted rate of $395. Again, it's an opportunity to hear from leading employers some of the innovative ways that they are getting their employees fit and active, as well as, changing those behaviors and eating healthier. Again, I want to thank each and every one of you for joining today's webcast. Thank you so much, Gloria, again, for lending your expertise, and we look forward to continuing to work with you and having you speak at next year's event. So thank you again, everybody.
Thank you.